Hello, friends. Welcome to the Big Talk. I'm Tricia Brouk, and I'm super, super excited. During the last several months, my guests have been writing their big talk inside the Big Talk Academy. And we are going to dig deep into this process, the power of story, and why community is so important. I'm so excited to welcome our featured guest today, the incredible Shuhada Alauddin. Shuhada, are you ready to drop in?
Yep, let's roll, Tricia.
Shuhada Alauddin is a business energy coach and founder of MYRYL. Shuhada coaches insurance planners, wealth advisors, and network marketers transform their business energy so they can expand their business and increase revenue. She's also an international speaker who's spoken at the Muslim Lifestyle Expo in Manchester, UK, and the Tokyo Modest Fashion Week in Tokyo, Japan, amongst others. She has been featured in numerous media outlets, including Thrive Global, Huffington Post, British Muslim TV, Halal Media Japan, Cosmopolitan Malaysia, and Marie Claire. Shuhada, take a minute to fill us in on anything I missed and talk a little about you.
Right, Tricia, first of all, let me just start off by saying thank you for having me as your guest. It's such an honor to be here. I guess maybe I should start telling a little bit about my background, how I got started doing what I'm doing now. As you mentioned, I'm a business energy coach. But before this, previously I was actually a lawyer for 10 years. And then I was doing mostly corporate legal practice. And long story short, one day I had a meltdown, and then I decided to take a break. During that break, I attended a color therapy course. And during that time, I discovered my color personality, which then, when I was asking the teacher who was doing the diagnosis on me, and he was saying, oh, the kind of profession or job that would fit you, your characteristics would be a teacher, a counselor, and da-da-da-da. And I swear to God, at that moment, like that moment froze, and you hear the angels go, ah! And that was when I decided, like, wow, I think this is what I'm really meant to do. So of course, I didn't immediately leave practice. I got myself certified in several areas. And I left 1 year after that to start MYRYL. And I've been doing it since 2012.
That's incredible. That's incredible. I love where you are. For our audience who is not seeing this, Shuhada is in a cafe virtually. She's got this gorgeous cafe background. And for those of you who are seeing this, note that she's actually at home.
Yes, I am. And it is because of the time. I'm in Kuala Lumpur and Tricia is in New York. It's actually 12 hours apart for us. So it's actually nighttime here. So cafes are closed anyway, due to the fact that now currently we're going through a movement control order. They call it a recovery movement control order due to coronavirus. So all shops need to be closed by 9 anyway. So yeah.
Well, I appreciate you staying up a little bit late to talk with me today.
No problem at all.
Shuhada, let's talk about the importance of story. You are currently in the Big Talk Academy going through the process of idea mining, creation of your talk, learning how to perform, how to pitch. Why is story so important in the process of public speaking?
I think for me personally, that it is a way for people to relate to you. Because whenever I hear, I always like to make reference to the ones that I love listening to, and I see how they do it. And it's always about story. It always starts off with their story. So that, and whenever I hear the story, then I'll be like, oh, I was like that, or I went through that as well. So it is something that helps people who are listening connect to you better, relate to you better. Yeah, so I think that's why it's really important to really get that story right. And sometimes we have the story, like I have a story in my mind, but then it helps for you to be able to say it out, articulate it better. Yeah.
And how are you telling a story now differently from when you've been speaking on other stages? Because you've spoken on very big stages. So what's different about your process right now?
Oh, yeah. Thanks to you. Thanks to Big Talk Academy. Previously I used to look at things like a bigger picture. And to be honest, it can get very daunting and overwhelming at times. Because you're looking at, oh, this is the big picture and I have and in your mind, like it's difficult or complex. You tend to overcomplicate things. But with the process that I've been going through with you guys for the past, 5 weeks or so, you kind of like take okay, we have the big picture, but then you like break it down to small bite-sized tasks that we need to do. And that actually helps to make it less scary. Maybe I can put it that way. And it makes it easier, you kind of like, okay, today let's just look at this. And then, hey, we're done. You're done in 20 minutes. And then tomorrow you do something else. And hey, you're done in 20 minutes. So it's not that difficult after all. It's just that it's all in your mind. So that is the one thing that I use whatever processes that I've been guided with you. And I do that for my other stuff as well, including like my to-do list for my daily stuff,
So you're applying the Big Talk Academy process to your daily to-do lists?
Yeah. Basically the concept of it, like, don't look at the big picture. I mean, you do, but then you find ways to break it down into smaller pieces.
I think that's important for our listeners to comprehend that we can go into overwhelm in any parts of our life. So when we think about one step at a time, one day at a time, that's not only the process of writing a big talk, but it's also the process of getting through what we're all going through simultaneously right now, right? Every day is a new day, one step at a time towards getting through a pandemic, one step at a time towards racial equality, one step at a time. If we keep taking those steps forward, we will have progress. Do you agree?
Yep, I agree, absolutely. And I think you probably noticed this about me from the last time when I was interviewing you for my series. And if you remember this, I said, I am someone who's always trying to make things perfect. So when I look at the big picture, that's why I get overwhelmed, because in my head, not only I want to try to do everything, I'm trying to do everything perfect. And then sometimes you don't even begin because it's so daunting, right? Too big of a task. So when you break it down, you kind of like put aside the perfection a little bit. I must admit, it's still hard for me to overcome that perfectionism in me. But now I focus on progress as opposed to perfection. So I would tell myself, it's okay, this is only the first draft, and this is the second draft, this is the third draft. At the end of it, you can perfect it, Shuhada. Don't worry. So yeah, that's what I've been doing.
That's amazing. Have you always wanted to speak on big stages, Shuhada?
Always. I think if you ask my mom, she'll say the first thing that I learned to do was speak before anything else. Yes, I've always loved public speaking. I've always loved speaking on stage. I think it goes back since I was like 8 or 9. I would participate in like a school debate, singing competition, storytelling, you name it. If I have a chance to go on stage, I'll do it. I don't know what is it about going on stage that to be honest, it scares me even up till now. I've been doing all this training and speaking. Obviously, I have to go on stage all the time. But every time I'll get really nervous, and usually like I'll be really calm and cool for like 2 weeks before whatever. And I would have my assistant say, wow, you're so cool and so calm. I say, yeah. Then 30 minutes before, I'm like, oh my God, what have I gotten myself into? Like, can I just like pull out now? But obviously it's too late. And I'm not the type to just cancel last minute. And the only way to go is just go ahead and do it, right? And then after 1 minute or so, I'll fumble and I get nervous, whatever. And then you get over it. You get over yourself. And the moment I step down, I'll be thinking like, oh, when's the next time I'm going to go on stage again? Amazing. And that's the feeling I've been having since I was like 8 or 9 until now. So yes, I always love and always want to speak on big stages.
That's amazing. Can I give you a piece of advice for that first moment where you want to, you're nervous and then you might stumble? The best thing that you can do is say the first line of your speech right before you go on. That will ground you so much. If you can anchor yourself into that very first line, you won't fumble anymore.
Right. Okay. That's a good tip. Thank you.
For sure. Let's talk about your process within the Big Talk Academy. You're very busy. You have a business. You have a family that you're taking care of. How are you managing your time within a 12-week speaking training?
Okay. This is the part where I have to admit that, okay, I was going, you see, I went into Big Top Academy with this same mindset that I had when I was 18 years old going to college for the first time, where, you know, you're like so excited and you're like, I want to do this and I want to get every task on time and da 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 da, you know. But then, of course, halfway, you know, I got two kids here with me all the time because of the coronavirus, and we were in quarantine, right? Although now it's not, but I still have them at home. And there's household chores and everything that's going on. I kind of like, obviously, I procrastinated and all that, so I wasn't like on task with everything, on time with the task. So to be honest with you, initially I was feeling kind of like, oh God, I'm like so far behind, because I mean, I see everyone on Facebook, everybody's like, see Bryn, right? I think Bryn Drescher.
Yes.
She's always with a video every week. I said, oh God, I'm like in week 2 and she's like probably in week 4 already, you know? But then at one point I was telling myself, Shuhada, nobody is breathing down your, Tricia is not breathing down your neck. Are you done with this task? Are you done with this assignment? You're not going to fail if you like don't submit your whatever you have to do 5 minutes or 1 day later, right? It's more about, why are you doing this? You want to do this because you want to craft the best Big Top for yourself, right? So forget everything else. Just if you need to take time off, and then you go back to it again, because at the end of the day, the result is you want to have crafted a story that you're happy to talk on the big stages later on. Yeah.
I'm so glad you're sharing that with our listeners and our audience, because your process is your process. I give you a framework that is mine, that you live within. And when I'm working with a speaker or an actor, it is my responsibility to observe their process and to give space, because my experience of the world is different from your experience of the world. And you might actually like to do 5 weeks in a weekend, right? In one sitting. Many people want to do these 5-minute bite-sized exercises every single day. And I think it's really great to give ourselves permission to have an experience that is our own within someone else's process, because then you get to marry these two experiences and delight in what's possible.
Yeah, absolutely. But I also then, because like I said, I'm always wanting perfectionism, and then I'll tell myself, no, Shuhada, you know what? There's a reason why Tricia does it in small, you know, like small bites. Like Monday we do this much, and 20 minutes and 20 minutes, so that you don't get yourself overwhelmed. So when it was time for me to catch up, it was actually pretty easy to catch up, because it's not something that's too much for you to do at one time. Yeah.
Right. I also think it's important for anyone who's listening and watching, when you decide to write something, whether it's a big talk, a screenplay, a blog post, if you give that piece of material room to breathe, it will become far more multidimensional. So if you sat down to write a 45-minute keynote in one day, it would be super flat, because you don't have the time to go back to it and think differently and allow that massage process to happen. So it's really, yes, we want to span this over a period of weeks, so that when you have a new thought, you can insert that into your talk.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd love to talk a little bit about the importance of community within this process, because I always say, when you are in my community, you might be on stage by yourself, but you are never alone. And it's really important for me to create a diverse community of speakers and ideas and thought leaders. What's your experience like going through a process where there's support?
Wow. You know, recently, I think it was last week, I posted a video on Facebook with everyone. It was a simple video. It was an introduction video. It was also like a progress video I wanted to share with everyone. But it was also a video where, for the first time, I got really vulnerable in a community. And I must tell you, I never do that. I've been a member of like some business networking community, PR community, you know, you get involved with a few communities, but I've never opened up the way I did, like how I did it was last week. And basically I was telling everybody, like, I felt like so far behind, and if you look at my expression, you will know that I was kind of like a bit, like uncomfortable saying all those things. But at the same time, I felt it's okay. This is like a safe space for me to share whatever that I need to share. And true enough, everybody was like supportive. And some of them came back and said, you know what, I'm in the same shoes like as you, and I'm so glad somebody else is going through this. And thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for sharing your experience. And again, that reminds me, like how you always say why your voice or your story is important to be heard. You think it's nothing for you, but then somebody else will hear it and you're like, oh, thank God somebody's like going through what I'm going through.
Thank you
so
for
that community.
That. Thank you for
that
sharing.
Community does that for me.
Amazing, amazing. I think it's really important for us to remember that doing anything alone is not only limiting yourself from having that connection and having that new point of view that you can share with and learn from, but it's also, you're also preventing someone from connecting to you, like you just said, Shuhada, who might feel the same way. So now they're giving themselves permission. Oh, I'm not the only one who's in this position, in these shoes. Yeah. And that's where humanity connects. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. And when you mentioned about giving yourself permission, and also that kind of like translates to giving somebody else permission, I think I must also say, because the community was something that you came up with it because it's part of Big Talk Academy, right? And I think it's also a reflection of who you are. I'm someone who I can be my biggest critic at times, or most of the time. And then when you go there into this community, and people will be like, oh no, it's okay, do your best, and we want to hear what you have to say. And I always then think this way, like, oh, this is how Tricia intended for the community to be, because that's how she is. That's how you are. You're so kind. You're so like don't be too hard on yourself. I remember the last time I was interviewing you, and I said, yeah, I was so nervous. I don't want to screw up. And you said this, and I tell you, it has a huge impact on me. I always remember you said, allow yourself to be a flawed human being. Don't worry about tripping little bits and pieces here. And I was like, wow, that was wow, and that's how I live. That's how I do my work every day. If I set out to do 5 things one day, I don't do it, it's okay. Like, remember Tricia said, allow yourself to be a flawed human being, Yeah. So I think that community is also because of how you intend it to be, because you're the one who created the community. So thank you.
It's my pleasure. What do you see for yourself at the end of the academy, walking away with this big talk?
Oh, definitely whatever that I need to craft in the future. I would definitely follow the processes that I've learned from Big Talk Academy. We had to come up with 100 ideas, guys. And prior to Big Talk, I would be thinking like, there's no way I can come up with 100 ideas, like 10, 20 maybe, but 100, no. But we did. Every single one of us did. In our own time, of course, right? It took me more than 2 weeks or something to come up with 100 ideas, but I finally did. And then, you kind of like nail down for which one speaks to you the most. When I went into Big Talk Academy, I was thinking, I'm just going to talk everything that's got to do with energy related stuff, because, I love energy subject matters. But then when I was doing the idea mining with you, I realized there are also other ideas that I'm drawn to. And I'm kind of like, hey, maybe this is something I could really talk about as well. It has nothing to do with energy, yeah? So there's another thing that I learned from all these processes that you guided us, is that keep your mind open. Don't go in thinking like, I want to just do this. But even if you do go in like that, like me, the process will somehow makes you open up and think bigger. Yeah. So that's definitely how it has also affected my work.
I'm so glad you're saying that, because we as human beings think we know everything, right? And we think we have it all figured out, and that our idea is the one idea. And what I'm always excited about, Shuhada, is being able to ask a question that gets somebody to think differently about what they perceived to be their reality. And because we all want to talk about our business, we all want to talk about our mission and our purpose and what we care about in the world. But there's always something that we haven't given voice to that could potentially become the big talk. And that moment, that one moment where you realize, oh my gosh, I never thought about this before. And this is what I'm going to now sing to the world. And that's
exactly how I felt. That's exactly how I felt. I was like, wow, now I had like 5 things, which is non-energy related. And I was like, okay, now I have to think about which one I really want to talk about, you know? Yeah.
Amazing. How has going through this process changed your view of yourself?
I'm definitely kinder to myself. I always say this in my business, like, trust the process, right? But you sometimes we think like, okay, this trust the process only applies in one area. Like in my work, that's why I tell myself, when you do something, you want to make something happen, and then you have to let the ship sail and just let things happen for change, right? Trust the process. But then I forget to apply that in some other areas. So it's the same thing with writing. So when, you know, you would send us emails to like show your support, right? And you'll say, trust the process, no ideas off limits, things like that. And the most recent one you said about how you should just be yourself, even if somebody thinks like it's not good enough or whatever, it's okay, it's not meant for you. Let's move on to the next one. And so those things kind of like tell me, like, again, giving yourself permission to just be yourself and not be perfect or be a flawed human being. So that teaches me to be kinder on myself in whatever I do.
Amazing. Well, I want to thank you, Shuhada, for being a featured guest today on The Big Talk. Where can our listeners get in touch with you?
Oh, okay. You can always get in touch with me via our website, which is www.myryl.co. MYRYL is spelled MYRYL.co. All the details are there, like Instagram, Facebook, email if you want to get in touch with me directly. So yeah.
And we'll put all of that in the show notes. Thanks again for listening. I hope you enjoyed The Big Talk. Check out the next episode. Be sure to subscribe. And remember, live your truth, be your authentic self, and drop in. I hope that you will start sharing your powerful story today, and be sure to subscribe and click on that notification bell so that you get access to my newest and latest videos. And I really appreciate that you are here and will always respond to the comments. Big love.